1.
BaRRa, you said 1 as I was unmuting the microphones, man.
Yeah, I was doing the countdown,
When
bro.
I do... Okay, well, BaRRa, I've been doing this countdown for well over 2 years now. Joe literally had her... was like, watch it. She likes to watch her On This Day on Snapchat. And on this day, 2 years ago, we were doing a podcast episode. And I was
Did I mess it up?
Well, that one, probably not. But this one, you did.
Oh,
you know, I count it down. Here's a little peek behind the curtains. Welcome to the Backliners, by the way. It's Aggro and BaRRaCCuDDa. Whenever we're getting started, as per usual, thank you. Whenever we're getting started, I say, all right, we're getting started in 5, 4, 3, 2, and then I don't say 1 because I'm unmuting the microphones when I remember to, and I'm changing scenes, and so I do that as I always do, and BaRRaCCuDDa goes 1. What? What is that about, man?
I was helping you count down. What do you mean?
You thought this whole time I just didn't know that I needed to be saying 1 there?
Well, I'm pretty sure this time you only said 5 and 4.
No, I did 5, 4, 3, 2, and then I was changing.
You did.
And then
no, you did. You're right.
Yes, CFOG, it is standard broadcast practice that you don't verbalize the last few numbers for this exact scenario that we are talking about. 1. Thank you, BaRRa. Welcome in, everybody, to the Backliners. A big show this week, and I kind of trolled myself in multiple ways. We didn't have the show yesterday because I didn't file my taxes ahead of the literal last day, and I'm free to admit that to you. I did file them, and everything is fine. And I only owed all of the money I've ever had in my life, so that's fine. Well, I guess I owe that because I don't know for sure. I have to figure that out myself.
Which is the best part of taxes, that they know how much you owe.
Right.
But you don't.
Right. You don't, but it's guess. And it's going to be fun and complicated. But also, if you get it wrong and we decide to check, you go to jail or pay a lot of money.
And we'll check years down the road, by the way.
Right, yeah. So, it's not even just last year.
That interest adds up, by the way.
It sure does. Yeah, why would we check and charge you for money that you could be paying recently? Let's check earlier than that.
Kind of like a very mean lender, you know.
Well, yeah, most lenders are, I find.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're right. Never mind.
Yeah, that's kind of the way it goes.
That's an example by me, I guess.
Right, so that's why we're doing this on a Tuesday, but congratulations, I played myself because the Hawks are playing one of their playoff games right now, so I'm a little sad that I'm missing part of that, but I think that this should just go to show how much I value all of you out there in the chat and who listen on all of your podcast networks, because I definitely remembered that this was a podcast and not just a stream. And you know, just know that my commitment is there to you, just as Mint Mobile is committed to saving you money on your mobile plan. Yeah, you didn't think just 2 minutes in I'd be whipping it out, but you'd be wrong, baby. You'd be wrong. If saving more and spending less is one of your top goals for 2022, why are you still paying insane amounts of money every month for wireless? Switching to Mint Mobile is the easiest way to save this year, and as the first company to sell premium wireless service online only, Mint Mobile lets you maximize your savings with plans starting at just $15 a month. And BaRRaCCuDDa, the man on your screen or in your ear, the man who knows how to say one. He only knows how to say 1 because he only has to say 1 15 times in a month in order to count to his phone bill. Do you understand how OP that is? He doesn't need to count that
very high at all.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. I had to learn how to count thanks to Mint Mobile because it's so cheap.
Yep.
And I was like, oh, I can just count all of my dollar bills each month and just pay that way.
That's a good point. Maybe Mint Mobile should start
them the money.
Start doing things like you can pay your whole phone bill with 2 bills, and neither of them are even like 20s. You know what I mean? It's only 2 bills. It's really all you need. You just need a 10.
I think you should shoot that idea straight to Ryan.
I'll call him up. Yeah, I'll call him up. But BaRRa, can you just let the people know how good the service is for you and Destiny as Mint Mobile users?
I mean, they use the network that T-Mobile uses, and I was using T-Mobile before I swapped over to Mint, and their network is perfect. You literally don't get drops anytime ever.
And BaRRa lives in the middle of nowhere, so he knows.
I don't anymore. Thank you very much.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. Your old place was. I say that, by the way, but we are literally. You have to pass like 2 cow pastures, multiple horses, some free range chickens in order to get to us. So I don't know why I'm throwing stones in my glass house.
Wait, do you go outside and then? Okay, that's a big question, I guess, to begin with.
Yeah, I did go outside today. Yeah, thank you for asking.
And then there's random like wind gust of just manure smell.
No, I do not have any manure
Okay.
smell. Yeah, I'm lucky enough that we're far enough away from like where the cows are to not get manure smell.
At my childhood house, if the wind blew the wrong way, the whole yard just smelled like poop. It was so bad.
Yeah, it doesn't sound ideal. But at the very least, you could text or call your friends about it if you had Mint Mobile. Because even when the wind blows the wrong way and your yard smells like manure, you're going to have service. That's another great ad campaign that I got to call Ryan about. What was that face for? What just happened?
Luna was trying to climb on the microphone, dude.
Oh, there you go. She was getting in there.
Yeah, she's going full aggro mode. She's been desperate for
respect
attention all day today, man. And I've been petting her, I feel like, for 3 hours total today, and she still wants more.
It's a tough life that you lead. But it's not tough because you're paying too much for phone service. I just keep coming, like, ripping this ad back out of nowhere. Listen, here's the deal. All plans come with unlimited talk and text and high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. You get to use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and keep your same phone number along with all of your existing contacts. So what are you waiting for? To get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month and get the plan shipped straight to your door for free, go to mintmobile.com/backliners. That's mintmobile.com/backliners. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/backliners.
One more thing.
Yeah.
The sign up takes literally 5 minutes, by the way. Like, you just
And
swap
that's
out
big.
SIM cards and you're done with a new plan. Like, it's literally as stress-free and easy as possible.
Yes, it could not be easier. mintmobile.com/backliners is the place to go for that. Okay, let's get into a little bit of a brief SPL discussion because I imagine a lot of our time will be taken up talking about the 9.4 update notes, a very unique update that I'm sure people are anxious to hear our thoughts about. And I'll give some caveats about that when we get to it. But let's talk SPL this weekend. I did travel this weekend to go visit our friends who live in North Carolina, so I did not get a chance to watch a whole lot of Smite. But taking a look at the schedule on SmiteProLeague.com/schedule, of course, looks like it was a pretty big weekend for the Jade Dragons, going 4-0, beating the Valhalla Valkyries and the Olympus Bolts. Sorry, BaRRa. 2-0 each. Titans as well, coming out 4-0.
They kind of got our number, historically, so I don't mind losing. And we had some internal shakeups that, I can't discuss on the podcast, but, it was needless to say, it was just an unlucky day all around, timing-wise, so...
Unlucky. Yeah, a little unlucky.
Which is fine, it's a spring split, like, it's if things happen, they happen, it's fine.
Yep. This is the time to work through those things, I suppose, is in the spring split. Titans also go 4-0 on the week, beating the Kings and the Scarabs 2-0. But the big story is the final game of the week, and I did get to watch a little bit of Game 3 of this set, which was the Oni Warriors and the Camelot Kings. The Camelot Kings go 0-4 on the weekend.
Oh, yeah.
And lose 2-0 to the Oni Warriors in particular. Game 1, the Kings were ahead basically the entire game. I went back and watched a little bit of it. Warriors win one fight, go up and end the game. Game 2 was not close. Oni Warriors really dominate from the very get-go. Are you giving more credit to the Warriors for this win or giving more blame to the Kings?
100% Warriors. It was kind of like it looked like a Worlds game. How, like, they just won't lose. Like, they keep getting knocked down. That's kind of like the Neil Moss special, I guess, at this point.
Sure is.
You just keep getting hit over and over and over again. Then eventually you somehow miraculously win a team fight late game and win the game. Like, game 1 should never be lost. Like, ever, but they somehow keep finding a way to like scratch and claw their way into these wins, which doesn't really make sense, but also I think it showed like game two, kind of Kings like mentally just getting hit really hard after the game one massive comeback. And also on top of that, as you said earlier, Kings not having the best weekend. I think for a team that was looking like potentially like top two, going 0-4, obviously like not the greatest, but like to lose like that is just really hard mentally to shake off.
Yes, I think it is as well, especially when you consider that phase one is not very long. Next week is the final week of phase one, right?
Yep.
So you do not have a ton of games in order to make it back. And when you look at the standings right now with 1 week to go in phase one, the Camelot Kings are in sixth after this week. They were 3-1 coming in prime position in order to shoot towards the top. Or stay at the top, rather, because they were already there. And now they're sitting at 3-3, only a half a game behind the Atlantis Leviathans, who are at 3-2. And the Kings don't have to worry about dropping to seventh, I don't think, unless they have another really bad week, because the Solar Scarabs are sitting at 1-4, and they're the team that's right behind them. But man, they are one of only 2 teams to have played 6 games so far, so they only have 1 left next week. So the best they can be is 4-3, which I would say is, I think that based on what their expectations are, it's a very confident team. I'm sure they consider themselves underperforming right now. But the reality is, in my mind, Barry, is that if the Warriors are going to be this team that we knew they could be last year, if things had gone the way of everyone being able to be in studio and all that kind of stuff, this is the type of team that we expected the Warriors to be last season. And if they are going to play like this, then that crowds up the top of the league a whole lot. And I think that really how tight the league is, because you look at it, the Scarabs are 1-4 and the Valkyries are 0-5. That is not that different from where those 2 teams were last season. The only difference from this season to last season in spring is that the only Warriors are a good team, and that isn't 5 teams beating up on 3. Instead, it's 6 teams who are all pretty close beating up on 2 so far.
Yeah, that was also one thing I really wanted to bring up, was that after this weekend, I feel like there is a clear top 6 and bottom 2 now.
Yep.
Which, I mean, is kind of sad for the Scarabs and Valks, but just standing-wise and play-wise, I think for whatever reason, they're just a bit behind. But also, Scarabs are having, like, some of the sickest early games and just throwing mid-game consistently now.
Yeah.
Like, over and over and over again, Scream is playing these wild picks like Morgan Jungle and making them work, and then they just keep throwing, like, mid-game consistently, which is just kind of making me sad. Like, I feel like Scarabs could be like, it could be like 7-1 in standings in my opinion.
Yeah.
But now it's like 6-2. I don't know. Scarabs just need to figure out I don't know if it's like shot calling or like disrespect on the map, or just laziness. But they just keep making these same mistakes mid-game. I mean, unfortunately, it reminds me of like old SSG a little bit, where
Curse.
we'd always have like these really good early games, and then something would happen every single time, and we would just like run to a brick wall and throw. And I think Scarabs are kind of dealing with that. Also, I think Valks are in a bit of a downtrend. I want to say the first week they were like going 2-1 with teams, or like I guess 1-2, and now they're like strongly getting 2-0'd by a lot of teams.
Yep.
So I don't know if people are just learning how to play against them now, or if the meta developing, they're just not as strong or quick at catching on to what's happening in the meta, which, I mean, I guess it could be a mixture of both.
Yeah, I mean, that second part sounds right to me, right? Like, these SPL teams are so good. They've just been here, done that. They know how to adapt. And the Valkyries are still trying to get up to speed, basically, on the base, and then things change, and then they're even more behind, and that trend kind of continues. I also wonder if, that it's a team with a lot of rookies on it that should know that they are going to struggle off the rip. They've got some veteran presence there. Wowie's been in the SPL a good amount of his career. Aqua, of course, been in the SPL a good amount of his career. But I wonder if getting beaten this much, I'm sure they came in and said, we're not having any expectations. We're going to do what we can. But at some point, you are 0-5, and that doesn't feel that great. And I wonder if that aspect of it is starting to get to them a little bit.
Yeah, let me pull up a Benny tweet. He said, honestly, I had pretty high expectations for myself starting this year, but these last few weeks have really humbled me. I will start actively trying to improve and become better than my competitors instead of chopping up to a jungle diff after every set. So I want to say he is aware of the issue and affected by the issue as well, or
Sure.
whatever issues they're having. And also, I think it's way easier from the outside in to watch SPL and be like, oh yeah, I can play with those guys. We can beat
Much
those
easier.
teams. And you actually get here, and then you have to scrim consistently every week, and you have to watch a lot of VODs, and it's not as easy as it may seem from the outside. And I think he's getting a little bit of a reality check at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, you can dominate SCC or SML or whatever it is in your time period, and then come to the SPL and realize that it's just it's another level. And I think that reality comes for many of us. I mean, even thinking back to Paul when he first came up to the SPL, he had a lot of very good individual performances, but also still made a lot of mistakes, and it took him some time to adjust, even with having a pretty successful initial few weeks. And Paul is arguably the greatest player to ever play. So you've got it is not a condemnation of their ability. It's just a reality that it sometimes takes some time, and hopefully they can figure it out, because that's, we always want all 8 teams to be competitive. And even in these O2s, could be worse. Could be last year's Valkyries. You've always got that to fall back on, right?
I thought you were going to say it could be 03s.
It could be 03s, yeah, exactly. We could be doing best of 5s again, and you could be getting 03s. So I guess it could be worse.
That's not fun.
No, it is not. Not for anybody.
No.
Okay, that's we'll do a more comprehensive breakdown of Phase 1 next week because it's ending. But I want to get to some time on these new patch notes that are coming out. But before I do, BaRRa,
Yes.
I've got a level with you.
One?
No, I got that part. Thank you. I was very excited to get to the Mint mobile ad today. And I did it very early. Number 1, in order to try and surprise you, because that's one of my goals every week. But number 2...
You did surprise me. Okay,
that's
sorry.
what I like to hear. That's what I like to hear. Number 2, it's because we have a brand new sponsor to the podcast. And I wanted to make sure that we could give them their glory right here in the middle as we change topics. So, chat, let me tell you guys all about our brand new podcast sponsor, Factor. This is a service in which you can order some meals that are delivered to your home. They are really, really high quality, and I've got all the details here that I'll read to you in a minute, but this is literally just my experience with it because they were kind enough to ship some stuff out to BaRRaCCuDDa and I for us to give it a shot, and want to make sure that it's good enough for all the Backliners fans, of course. We're kind of like your poison testers. You guys are the kings and queens, and we had to eat your meal a little bit and see if it was poisoned. And let me tell you, it was not. It wasn't. Barry, I don't know about you, but I was impressed with what I got from Factor.
Oh, I was in love.
This stuff is legit, man. And I'm a picky eater, and I'll go into that in a little bit, but I get really weirded out about, I can't have, frozen fish from, Kroger brand frozen fish, sketches me out, man. I won't eat it.
Mm-hmm.
And so
I don't blame you for that either.
Yeah,
sometimes fish is RNG.
That's what I'm saying, bro. Joe always gives me crap for it. Fish is RNG. We literally had fish from Kroger tonight, but it was the fresh kind. That's what we did. This stuff, it was really, really tasty. And we'll get it. I guess I'll read a little bit of what they have for us here, and then you can give me your experience as well.
Yeah, of course.
And this is what's written down, but it is actually true. Now that I'm working from home more often, I don't need to I'm not getting lunch out, which is good because I'm saving money, but it also means that I'm not always like taking the time to prepare a full meal for myself. But it doesn't mean that I'm not busy. I've got a lot of work to do and that kind of stuff. And I really cannot motivate myself to like cook a full lunch. I don't think I've ever done that in my entire life, and it sounds awful to me. I like cooking dinner, not trying to cook lunch. So luckily, I don't have to meal prep or meal plan anymore, and I can still eat well now that I leave my meals to Factor. Factor makes it easy for me to eat clean 24/7 with fresh, never frozen, prepared meals that are so delicious you wouldn't believe they're actually good for you. BaRRa, which ones did you get, and which were your favorites?
I honestly don't remember what I got because I ate them like the first day that they got here because I was starving and I was just going downstairs.
Wait, how many did you get?
I got 6, and
ate
they're
all
kind of the
of
same.
day one?
Well, I was a very hungry boy, and okay, so
What?
I ate the first one. I was like, okay, this is like actually pretty good.
Yeah.
And then I just kept eating because I was so hungry. And
BaRRa, I was so full after I ate mine. You're trolling me right now.
I ate so much, and they were all delicious. And I mean, I don't know if I said it, but like they have vegan food for us vegans out here.
That's right.
And it was all delicious. They had like special sauces on the side that you could pour on. And oh my god, it was those sauces tied everything together, and everything just tasted so good in every single meal. Like, I was absolutely in love, and of course I shared them with Destiny. Of course. I had to, it's contractually obligated at this point that we have to share everything together.
Right.
And she was also in love, and we devoured the meals. Very, very, very delicious. And also, it's just so nice to just already have prepared meals in your fridge that you literally just poke holes in.
So nice. I literally just pop it in the microwave and it's done in like 2 minutes, and then I've got like a meal that I don't feel bad about. Like it's best case scenario.
It's a healthy meal that should be unhealthy, but it feels good to eat. Yeah. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it does.
But it checked all my boxes while I was eating it, and I'm just like, I want more. Like, I was a little sad that I just devoured all of them because I'm like,
I know.
I just want more of their meals because it's just so easy to just throw in the microwave. Like, I don't have to think about what my next meal is because I already know it's in the fridge waiting for me.
It's perfect, man. And I want more as well. I've been waiting for us to be able to like talk about it on podcast, so then I can go to Aaron and be like, "Yo, dude, how do we get our next shipment in?"
Yeah, for real, dog.
Because I need it, man. My lunch this afternoon. You know what I had? Because I was all out of Factor. I had chips and salsa. That was my whole. That was my lunch, and it was tasty. Don't get me wrong. But it wasn't Factor, that's for sure. Here's the deal.
It's also
Factor,
not lunch.
Yeah, it's also not lunch, right. Factor saves me time by delivering chef-crafted meals to my doorstep, eliminating the hassle of grocery shopping and meal prep, not to mention cleanup. There's no dishes to wash, which is a huge thing for me. Each Factor meal arrives pre-prepared and ready to eat in 2 minutes, way faster than ordering in. Factor tackles the tough stuff so I don't have to. Their registered dietitians and expert chefs work hand in hand to create meals with nutritious ingredients. And with more than 29 meal options each week, there's going to be a ton. I loved the garlic chicken. That was my personal favorite, but they had salmon that was really good. They had a buffalo chicken that was really tasty. And I think I got a pork that was absolutely awesome. And as BaRRa mentioned, they offer a whole bunch of different stuff. You can cater to your preferences. Vegan and veggie meals, keto meals, or keto. Yeah, it's keto. Keto meals. Low-calorie options, extra protein, plant-based bars, energy bites, smoothies, veggie sides, all that kind of stuff in order to keep me fueled and focused all day long. So, if this is all sounding good to you, and how would it not, head to go.factor75.com/backliners120 and use code backliners120 to get $120 off. What a steal this is going to be for you. That's code BackLiners120, the numbers, at go.factor75, FACTOR75.com/BackLiners120 for $120 off. again, best way to help support the show, everyone, is to hook it up with our sponsors that are nice enough to hook it up for us. Helps us get more and keep the ones we have. And I am serious when I say that Factor. I am so excited that they are sponsoring the podcast because they have a great product.
Absolutely blown away by the product, and I want a lot more.
Me too.
A lot more meals. Yeah.
Me too. Yeah. And Joe's taking them to work too, man. Like I gotta. Yeah, we gotta work. We gotta talk about that. How often we're getting these boxes, man? Because I've got a feeling if you're crushing 3 in a sitting, then I don't know how you did it too. It's like a full meal. Anyways, let's get to the patch notes, shall we? Do I want to start with Yu Huang? Yeah, just real briefly on the new god. I'm surprised at the general reaction to the overall kit. Just in terms of, I've seen a lot of people think that he is not going to be very strong, and that surprises me. Having play tested with and against him for months at this point, it is. I have felt like he's very strong. And I think the big thing that I wanted to give is a hint to everyone out there. Number one, Bear, I was watching your arena gameplay with him. You got to charge the 2 all the way, my guy.
Thanks, bud.
You're insta-firing it. You're losing a lot of damage, Yeah,
I learned that, as the game went on.
Right.
And,
that's what it's about. Gods have learning curves. That's okay.
Look, some of us don't remember everything we've ever read.
No,
so
you're
I
right.
didn't go over the patch notes, but chat swiftly, told me to charge the 2, and
right.
I started doing it.
And it was feeling better after that, I imagine.
Yeah, it was. And I was surprised that people had an overall negative response to him. Like, I've seen everywhere between like he's boring to like he's a lot of fun, and I think the longer I play Smite, the more I just realize you can't please everyone, and it's literally impossible to.
Preach,
and
baby.
It's like, it's just so like the game will never feel good for everyone at the same time because we all play different styles, we all play different characters, we all play different gods, we all have different things that we like to do in the game, and it's just impossible to please everyone. Like personally, I thought he was kind of fun.
I think
he's probably. I think he's more fun in Conquest than he is in Arena.
Definitely. Yep.
Because I feel like the geography of the map is like fits his kit better.
Yep.
So yeah.
Yeah, he wants to be able to control the gaining your Dow and being able to full charge your 2. Those are things that you can do a lot more often on the Conquest map, right? The pace is a lot. A lot slower in these engagements, so it fits, and I think it fits really well thematically with what he does. He's this emperor that is at total peace, and so he doesn't. You shouldn't feel like you're slamming button after button after button and all that kind of stuff. It's very calm and just I'm going to 2, and then I'm going to 1, and then there's someone near me. I'm going to get up into the sky, and then I'm
going to glide away.
Yeah, exactly. I'm above this. So, like all that kind of stuff feels. I think that Lermy and the team all nailed it. And the big thing, because I also thought the ultimate was not very good for a long time. Here's the hint, dear listener. Don't worry about your dragon at all. Only aim the back dragon. That's all you need to worry about. And just think of it as a snipe that will relocate the enemy if you hit them. Like the amount of times that I was able in playtests to like push someone out of their tier 1 tower and onto the tower line where my jungler can hit them and deal a good amount of damage at the same time, like that feels really, really strong. And it took us and we have a lot of very good mid lane players in the playtests, sometimes myself, Lermy, Chaos, Clumsy, a lot of people who are very well versed in mages, and we really had a lot of fun finding uses for this ultimate, pushing people around corners in the jungle in order to like have your teammates hit them, that kind of stuff. It takes a lot of time to get used to. It is not an easy ability, but I think it is very good.
I just like that he has one of the more simpler kits in the Smite, because I feel like a lot of the kits that have been released lately have been kind of like on the, what's the word where everything like power creeped, I guess.
Yeah.
And I feel like he just has a more simple kit outside of the ult, which I like.
Yep.
And I like kind of just brings me back to like the earlier days of Smite.
Yep.
And I like that. Like it's not like a King Arthur or like a Tiamat kit, you know, like you don't have to really focus that much on the rest of your buttons. It's just well, it's like you said, you just sit back, relax, you know, hit a root, hit a one. Oh, they're on me, time to glide away.
Yep. Yeah, I think so as well. And I think it's a perfect time to do it with this nerfening, as we called it, internally, the type of update to go to a kit that isn't immediately insanely over the top. But I think that I have to be very careful about how I talk about this all in general, because you know this is a big patch with a lot of strong feelings around it from all of our players, and obviously that is a huge deal to us. But I do think that I do find a little bit of humor in all of the strong response to that I've heard around, you know, this update is not enough and doesn't do enough to change the game. And we still want damage to be lower. We still want crowd control to be lower, all that kind of stuff. And then in the same patch, Yu Huang isn't doing enough. You know, like it's not this kit day one. It needs more. I think that you know I just find a little bit of like a tiny bit of humor in that. I'm not saying that either aspect of that feedback is irrelevant or not valuable. I just think it is kind of funny that they're side by side in that way. But I take them both seriously, and I respect the people that are saying them. On to the actual meat and potatoes of the nerf update. It's just impossible to be sincere like that and not like sound super troll. So I just have to like I don't know. There's nothing I can do. I'm just hosed no matter what I do, Barry. It's it's just, yeah. I'm
it's
just
fine.
Lose
It's fine.
there. Yeah. I will say I'd like to preface this whole discussion by saying I am only reflecting my personal views and not the views of the entire design team or balance team.
And he'll say this on every patch.
I will say this on every patch, and I will continue to because I need to, and it's important. But I was I was surprised that you know our players we've heard the feedback that there's too much damage and too much crowd control. And so I think that we did something that is pretty intense and pretty unique. We've never done anything like, we've never nerfed this many gods. We never made this many changes to this many gods and items. It was a huge patch. And to go with the all nerfs, no buffs idea, I think is really interesting. And I was just a little bit surprised that a lot of the feedback, and not in a negative way, you know, I just still clearly will always have a lot to learn about how to interpret what our players are asking for. But I was hoping that, as I'm sure we do with every patch, it's so hard talking about these patches now that I'm on this side, man. It's so much harder.
And I don't get dancing on the same topic for like 4 minutes, and I'm like,
I know, bro. How am I supposed to say it? I'm just surprised that people didn't think it was enough. Was it, you know, was it this 30 gods are gutted and they won't deal any damage anymore? You know, it isn't removing 100 base damage from every guardian ability or something like that. No, it isn't those things, but it was an intense amount of change that you don't see in a regular patch. Let alone, even in mid-season or new season patches, you don't see this many god changes and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
So, I do think that there is... Everyone's kind of losing the forest for the trees a little bit, where this 10 damage nerf doesn't do enough, or this 10 power nerf doesn't do enough on this item, without realizing that it's, oh, this god is losing 10 damage on this base ability, but all of their items have also lost 10 power, and across 4 items, that's 40 power, and it's a huge amount. I think that when you look at it holistically, I expect this to have a big impact on how everyone's game feels. I don't think that the average player will notice that they are taking less damage or that the game has slowed down a little bit, but it will undoubtedly have a pretty noticeable statistical impact once we get once we get a lot of games played on it.
Okay, so I don't wait.
Pain.
Wait. You said that so like politically the whole time.
Yeah, it's what I gotta do now, man. It's what I gotta do. People get real passionate, and me too. Like, right? Like, I get real passionate about these things as well. So I totally get it. I just don't, I just don't want anyone to feel like what I'm saying is, oh, we were right and you guys are wrong, and just like do what we're telling you. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just saying, for my personal thoughts and my personal expectations. As a player, let's take another game that I play, like Magic. And if they're doing digital balance now on their card game on Arena, if this percentage of the card pool got nerfed, even if they were really small nerfs, I think I'd be like, wow, that's a lot, right? Like, it's gonna change the landscape, because everything, not necessarily everything, but a large percentage of the game was affected. And I think that I was surprised at how much our players gravitated towards this particular change didn't fit, or I don't understand why this god got hit, and that kind of stuff. All of which are very fair thoughts, but I was surprised at how much they focused on individual changes instead of the changes as a whole.
Yeah, well, I think that people don't really know what's happening behind the scenes for, like, say, for the Apollo nerf. For a lot of people, because Apollo's like never played, it seems like such a out of nowhere nerf, I guess. Out like next to the like more played ADCs, I guess.
Right. Well, I can tell you, for gods like Apollo, I saw a lot of other ones people were questioning, like Chalk, Tsukiyomi, some items like Chronos Pendant, things like that. This patch was really targeted at the bulk of our player base, right? Not the high end, not the low end necessarily, though, of course, both of those aspects of the scale are going to get affected. But we really went in depth on, if a lot of our players feel like there's too much damage, we should find who they are feeling that from and what they are feeling that from that is contributing with, and they might not necessarily realize it. I think that there were a lot of the high-end gods that, we nerfed a lot of the SPL top picks, pretty much all of them, all that kind of stuff. But it was also like, if our average player feels like mages are doing too much damage, and then we look at the mages who are doing the most damage in the game and compare that, we did a lot of like cross-referencing on damage, average damage for a god in a match, and popularity of a god in a match. And when we kind of cross-reference those lists, if we make a hybrid list that weights those things, then we can see who is contributing to this feeling disproportionately the most, either because they're in a lot of games or because they're doing a lot of damage. And finding that like combination number, so to speak, and then addressing those gods and items, because that way it is most likely to be those gods and items that are actually affecting our average player. So while the SPL might not be building Chronos Pendant, if it's being bought in 80% or whatever, just throwing out a random number, if it's being bought in 80% of our casual conquest games, and we don't nerf it, then in 8 out of 10 casual players' games, they don't feel like mages are doing less damage, right? Or to the same degree. So it's I think that there were always, trust me, for me, there was a lot of gods that it was like, all right, we got our list of the data that we wanted and that we wanted to combine and associate values with. I'm like, oh my God, we've got we've got to nerf chalk or whatever. Like, that feels weird, but it's the goal.
I mean, it makes sense.
It's in line with our goals.
The patch makes sense for me because, I mean, like you said, like you hit a lot of the top SPL picks. You hit the top, in my opinion, you hit a lot of the top SPL builds as well, which I mean, it's fine with me. Like meta change, I don't care. And then you also hit like all of the casual scene as well. So in my opinion, it's a pretty good patch. And for me, like personally, I feel like it doesn't. It's gonna sound kind of funny, but I feel like people are expecting to play on this patch and expect it to feel like a brand new game for some reason, and expecting like you to never die anymore, or it to be just black and white between like yesterday and today's Smite, and that's not how it should be.
Right.
And that's not what the patch was intended to do either, because it was basically just a lot of small hits at everything across the board.
Right.
So it's not going to feel like a brand new Smite. Like some of those old gods, there's like I still think Medusa's still good. Like even though she got hit with the nerf stick, she still has one of the best team fight ults in the game. She still applies anti-ult with her too. She still can dash to the wave and kill the wave. Like she's still a good character, but she got hurt a little bit. And same with like everything.
Yeah.
And so it just brings the bottom up a little bit and the top down a little bit. So everything's more centered towards this nice little medium for the casuals as well as the pros. And I think it also opens up the meta a lot more, especially in ADC, because we saw a lot of like Medusa, Cern. I can't tell. I've played over 50 scrims with Medusa. Yeah. I've played over 50 scrims with Cern.
Write that down. Where's Chuck when we need him? He was on the show like a couple weeks ago. He needs this info, Barry.
I'm literally picking these gods nonstop, and so is every other ADC before this patch. Like, it changes a lot, but it also doesn't change a lot, which, in my opinion, is a good thing. You know, it shouldn't absolutely kill characters, and like, I don't know.
What I thought our players wanted was to just take where the game is in a vacuum and just push it down a little bit. Alongside, you know, bringing down the top gods and that kind of stuff and the top items, but just shift it down. That they think that it's too much. It's been a little bit too much. You know, games, as they get older and more content gets added, it's very natural that things continue to get a little bit stronger. I don't think that a little bit of strength being added over a long period of time is a negative. I think that players in games where strength does not get added oftentimes find those games boring. But I don't think that, you know, that doesn't mean I don't think power creep can be a problem. And I certainly we hear the community, and I hear the community, and that's a major concern for them. And so that's the other thing, is that I don't think that I will speak for the design team now, like, it's not like, all right, we did it, all done, like, nice work everyone, and we all go get ice cream together and talk about how we fixed the game in one patch. Like, that's not how it works. And that was never intended to be how it was received. And we will continue to try and get the game where our players want it. But yeah, I think that like Agni's a good example that someone brought up in the chat. A lot of pro mid laners upset about Agni. If this were a normal patch cycle where we were just kind of doing things business as usual, would I have been advocating for an Agni nerf? No. But you look at that god's win rate and damage numbers, and you know you can check casual Smite and that kind of stuff to see good approximations of characters' win rates. Agni was in line with what we needed to do. So I think that overall, I'm excited for people. You know, patch went out today. I'm very excited for people to be able to get their hands on some of these things. And I think that overall, if it feels very much like the same game, there's just a few less deaths per game and a little bit less golden experience because you clear a little bit slower or whatever, then I think that's good. And that's a good starting point that we can continue to iterate on moving forward. Another big thing that got changed this patch was diminishing returns and crowd control. Because again, It's a big point right now that there's too much crowd control in Smite. You get CC'd, you die over and over and over again. And so we changed the way DR works. So as a quick explanation for our listeners who might not be super familiar with how crowd control works and how diminishing returns work, whenever you are hard CC'd, you are given a stack of diminishing returns that is invisible on you that will last for 15 seconds. You can get up to 2 of these stacks. And previously, the first stack you got would reduce the next CC duration by 33%, and then the next one after that would reduce it by 66%. It would be 33% per stack. And there's a floor that if that reduction would take it below 0.5 seconds, and it was supposed to be above 0.5 seconds, then it wouldn't reduce it below 0.5 seconds. But we've changed it so that now the stacks of DR are now 40% per stack. So it is 40% and then 80%. And we also lowered the floor from 0.5 to 0.4.
Mm-hmm.
I think, again, my personal opinion, that 95% of our players, we could have done this and they would have never noticed. It would have gone completely under their rate. They would have never known, but they would have been CC'd for less time, pretty significantly. In some scenarios. In most scenarios, this does very little. It is simply for the longer CC chains that you will not be CC'd as long. I've seen a lot of discussion about how this hurts certain gods more than others. It absolutely does. There's no doubt about that. And I personally, again, not speaking for the whole design team, I personally think that it's better to just get this change out, try and address this community concern, and gods like Thor that struggle because he's DRing, he's stopping himself from being able to do his full hammer combo or whatever. We can help him individually later.
Mm-hmm.
If our community is telling us this is what we want to be crowd controlled less, then I think that this is the right direction to go. And I have more thoughts on it, but I'll pause my monologue to let you give your thoughts, Barry.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't know how many good CCR items there are, or how much people are buying CCR. I feel like before maybe it was last year that a CCR build came up in solo.
It was tank boots. Tank boots had a lot of CCR on them.
Yeah, and I think that people are still recovering from that era of having CCR freely in their builds. And now I think that a lot of people aren't buying as many CCR items.
Yep.
But I think this change could have been done one of two ways. Could have been done with the DR changes, or just adding more CCR to more defense items to make it more approachable for people. But I mean, I'm fine with this change. It doesn't really affect me as a backliner.
Sure.
Because I feel like most times when I'm dead. If someone's trying to peel me, and my support or Solon are hitting CCs, I feel like I'm still kind of dead in most situations.
Yep.
But I think this is more just tuned for the casual scene that don't know how to position as much.
Or
and
don't know how to buy CCR correctly against heavy CC comps.
Yeah, exactly. Because, I mean, if you're against an E-set and you throw a sphere robe on you, and you're feeling pretty good the rest of that match, and I feel like a lot of people don't really think about that kind of stuff and just avoid those items for some reason.
Yep.
Especially like you said, into heavy CC comps, they're just more prots mean better, and that's not really always how it works. A lot of times movement speed gives you more tankiness than actual prots and health do.
Yep.
Because you can obviously dodge more buttons. Winged Wand, I think, is a really underbought item right now because there's so many slows in the game that people just don't care about.
Right.
And they're just let me just tank through all this damage. But I mean, in earlier seasons of Smite, you saw so many Winged Wands.
Winged Blade, for those of you who didn't play in 2013.
Yeah, Winged Blade as well. And it might just be too hard to fit in builds, or it might be like kind of an issue you talked about earlier, where like mages doing too much damage, where you can't afford that you need the heavy item or
Sure.
heavy prod item because you're always going to get hit. I'm not sure. But yeah, that's my little take on it.
Yeah, I think that's very fair. And again, I think that if it was there's too much CC in SPL or high level rank games, or our top performing casual players, I think that it would have been a very acceptable solution to just add CCR to some items and call it a day. But again, I think that this whole patch is with the average player in mind, and the average player is not buying CCR when they see heavy CC comps. They just aren't, and so it doesn't help them. And I think that's the big thing. I do think there's been a clip going around Twitter that I saw of
the jungle.
Yeah, that one really frustrated me a little bit, Barry, to be honest, because I think it's really intentionally dishonest. In the first clip with the 5 seconds, the first part of the clip with the 5 second stun, it's someone with no DR stacks and no CCR, and then in the clips where it's a 0.4 second stun, they have they have CCR items and full DR stacks, and it's like, yeah, this isn't any different than what it would have been on the last patch. Like, if you build this way and you've got max DR stacks, the maximum the CC duration minimum is 0.1 seconds. And that does not make a massive difference that doesn't make a massive difference in most SPL games. Like, the chances of 0.1 seconds being the make or break isn't always, it is rare, I think. So is this a big change? Yes. Does this matter? Of course. It matters a lot. But at the end of the day, the amount of times that this is going to really mess you up are pretty slim, because most CCs, how the CC duration minimum works, like, if you've got 2 DR stacks, you are getting minimum CC'd by most things, right?
Yep.
So all that happened to you is that you got CC, that person got CC'd for 0.1 seconds less. Yeah, I don't know. I think that the discussion around this topic just got really twisted really quickly, and I think that I don't really understand. Well, I do understand why, but I encourage people to continue to play it. I think the places you will notice it the most are in individual gods that want to combo CCs into themselves in order to guarantee their damage, and you will notice it there. And I think that is a very fair concern that I am very high on addressing as soon as we can. But as far as game-wide goes, I do not think that it is as much as an impact as some Twitter threads would have you believe.
But I think also people are currently in the state of is the word sensationalism?
Yes, that's a good word for it. Yeah.
Yeah, where everything is like, oh my gosh, this is the biggest change I've ever seen, and X, Y, and Z, and I just think we all need to take maybe a lot of steps back and just look at the big picture here and just play Smite for a little bit, it for like a few days instead of, instantly having a reaction.
Getting gut reaction and initial reads are very important. That's a key part of a lot of things. And if something feels wrong when you read it or when you first experience it, that's super valid. But I think it's also valid to play a couple days on it and see if it still feels that way. I think that is a fair ask from me as an individual.
Agreed.
Now, sorry, go ahead.
I was just like, I feel like people just need to take that with a lot of things in life, just
very true.
Stop freaking out about the instantaneous gut response and just take a lot of steps back, and you can go now. So yeah.
No, I feel that for sure. We are not even close to having the amount of time. We could have started minute 1 totally made Mint Mobile and Factor mad by not telling you about their great products, totally skipped the ad reads, and gone from the top of this patch to the bottom, and we wouldn't even be close to done. So that's not the goal. You can head on over to the Smite Game website and read all the individual changes. There are a lot of them, and again, I encourage all of our listeners to think about these changes holistically and not just individually. But I do want to take a moment to talk about Erlang Shen, because this was the big rework for the patch. This is something that I've been working on a ton over these last few weeks, and I'm very excited for people to get their hands on it. I'd made a short Twitter thread about the lessons that I learned after my work on Circuit and how that was received, and how it actually played, and once it was in the player's hands and that kind of stuff. And I think the big thing that I was concerned about with Circuit was making her, she was overperforming in support. And so we obviously wanted to tone that down. But I thought that our players wouldn't want her to go from the best support at a high level to the best jungler at a high level. And so I was very concerned about making sure that the support level got toned down and the assassin level stayed as close to the same as we could with these number changes. And our player base made it very clear that that's not what they want with these types of changes. And I think that's a very fair point. So with that in mind for Erlang Shen, as I was doing a ton of testing and iteration and all that kind of stuff, dude, I played so much Erlang over these last few weeks, man. I felt so dirty. I'd play test him a couple times each day on the changes, and then I'd load up on a Smurf and run some Erlang solo and some Erlang jungle and some Erlang support at night, and then do it all again the next day. And
oh jeez,
bro, I think I put in easily 30 games of Erlang in 2 weeks. Easily. Your boy was slamming some Shen.
Goodness, bro.
It was a lot.
That sounds fun, but also awful at the same time.
It is really fun.
Layers.
Yeah, Layers saying that's light. As an Erlang abuser, I respect that for sure. It is really fun to just really fully dive into a god like this and try and understand everything about what, having very clear goals lined out and really trying to get as familiar with everything as you can, which is obviously always the goal for all of these changes, but to really do it at this level was a ton of fun. And overall, I think that I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. Only day one so far of players being able to play it on the live servers, and we'll continue to see. But I have seen a lot of discussion. By the way, big overarching, big picture changes. If you didn't read the patch notes, you probably should in order to get the actual numbers. But remove the knockup on the 3, because that is a key part of his strength as a jungler. It is almost all of his strength as a jungler. And I'll come back to that in a minute. But added a new effect to the 1, gives him some lifesteal while it's active, applies a damage reduction on any target's hit, so it's kind of like an Osiris tether. Made him generally tankier. Turtle Shield now builds off of protections from items, all that kind of stuff. So the design intent was to make his jungle worse and his solo lane better. And that is the difference between Circuit and Erlang, is that instead of just making his solo the same, but his jungle worse, it is explicitly intended for his solo lane to be stronger than it used to be. And if he releases as the best solo laner this patch, so be it. But I wanted our players to be excited about playing him, and I have seen a lot more positivity and excitement about being able to play these changes, which I obviously like a lot. The one thing I've also seen, though, Barry, well, real quick, and then I'll let you go. I know I've been monologuing a lot since we started talking about patches.
You're good.
I've seen a lot of people say that they think he's going to be better in jungle after these changes. That the knockup was not a huge deal to him in the jungle, and that...
Wait, who said that, bro?
It has been not uncommon on Reddit, in particular. And I do not agree in the strongest terms I'm allowed to say. I disagree. The knockup was everything to this character in the jungle. And losing the knockup in solo also hurts him a lot. Like, removing a knockup from a character and not giving them a replacement CC, that is maybe the biggest individual nerf we've seen for a god since like season 2, when a lot of those gods like had aspects of their kit removed. You know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
It is hard to remove a knockup from a character, not give them any additional CC, and not absolutely kill the character. I think we've done it, fingers crossed, but I don't know. There's a chance that he is just dead without the dead, quote unquote, that he would just need more buffs without having the knockup. So the reason that there are so many new effects and new positives and buffs is because removing a knockup from a character and not giving them a replacement CC is maybe the biggest feasible nerf we could ever give a character without like straight up removing an ability. And that's, I do not think he is going to be a better jungler at all. That's the end of my rant about that for now.
Yeah, I think whoever said that is just hard trolling and has never been one-shot by a good Erlang player about 1,000 times in their career.
Yep.
You know, there's just, I mean, I think players are gonna like, it's gonna feel worse for people initially when they play Erlang and they're like, oh, my turtle isn't knocking up anymore. Because like, it's just gonna be such muscle memory for them now.
It took a lot of games for me. It took a lot of games for me to get used to it. Do you have any idea how many turtles I pre-beads in playtests that weren't gonna knock me up? Wormy was playing it one game and she was like turtling at me and I beads, and then we both just like stood there for a second because she was laughing at me and I was laughing at me, and then we just walked away. I was like, dude, that was pathetic. Like, what am I doing?
You hear that little turtle noise behind you and the panic sets in of like, which CC do I beat? And now you only have to worry about 2 instead of 3. And I just think the casual scene just doesn't understand what pro-level Erlang jungles have been doing to the scene for literally years.
Yep.
In a combo that is like, I think it's like impossible to DR, right? With the knockup and root.
Yeah, if you do it in the right, if you lead with taunt, it is like they don't get DR'd at all.
Yeah, and you literally always die in that taunt versus a good Erlang player who's like auto-canceling everything perfectly.
Right.
And you're just dead. And there's nothing you can do as a backliner without beads into that character. You always die.
Yep.
And now, I think it's just like the knobs just got twisted a little bit. I think he still can jungle.
Agreed.
But I think it will just be a different style. Probably like more of an enabler now, or like a setup with, I mean, it kind of just brings me back to old like Aurora Erlang, where he would just root and people would just die. I think he's still got that kind of setup with a taunt as well. But I think he's just more of a bruiser, frontline, warrior guy than a I'm going to build stone cutting or penetration and then go whatever I want to after that.
Yeah.
And still one-shot you. And I just think the casual scene just doesn't really understand that, unfortunately.
Yep.
Which I feel like probably a lot of people listening to this podcast are probably higher level players.
Yes.
That kind of understand that instead of the bulk casual scene.
Yeah, that's a great point. If you have found this podcast and are listening to it, it means you are not the vast majority of our player base, right? Like, no matter your skill level, you are more invested in Smite than the vast majority of our player base, which is obviously great news for us and great news for me, and that we love you and we're happy to have you. But when we're talking about things like this patch and, you know, I'm saying, oh, most of our casual players aren't building CCR in response to heavy CC comps, and you're sitting there thinking, well, I'm silver and I would build Spirit Robe when I see a lot of CC. You are more invested in the game than the vast majority because you are listening to this podcast. And that's definitely a good thing to keep in mind.
Yeah, overall, I like this change, and I like the idea of these changes to make them more identify closer with the role that they're not. It's not trying to kill like role flexibility or whatever, or like god flexibility, I guess is a better way to say that.
Yeah,
it's not trying to kill that, but it's just It's just twisting the knobs a little bit, and I think that is a good thing for Smite
Yeah.
in general.
I saw someone in chat saying that they're sad they won't be able to play Erlang in jungle anymore because he was one of their favorite junglers. The reality is that if we're taking something away, we're taking strength away to give it to players who weren't playing, solo mains who want to be playing Erlang that really couldn't and find a lot of success. That has to come from somewhere. And I wish that we could do it so that everyone's just happy all the time, but that's just not realistic. But I do think that this god can still jungle. I don't think it's... Will we see Erlang jungle in the SPL? Probably not, but certainly possible. But if Erlang's your best jungler and you're trying to climb to Diamond, playing Erlang in the jungle won't stop you from reaching Diamond, right? Like, it is a god that can still jungle, can still do a lot of things well. It just won't be oppressive at a high level. And in a patch that we talk so much about, the casual impact and all that kind of stuff, Circuit, Erlang, these changes that I've been working on, they are specifically targeted at gods that have been problematic for our highest level, that are unpopular with our mid to lower level. So there's always going to be that little bit of disconnect there, and that makes these changes hard to work on. But I think it also makes them really rewarding for me that there are a lot of players solo players who just never played Erlang because, or when they did, they didn't have a whole lot of success, and his popularity wasn't very high. And if I get to make a couple new solo Erlang mains, that's really exciting for me. So hopefully that happens. I think that he's going to be good. Do I think the character is net stronger or net weaker than his previous iteration? I don't know. I really don't. But I think that he is different than he was. I think he plays different. I think it takes a different mentality when playing him than the old Erlang. It's so much about spreading out your spot weakness debuff and making sure that you can damage reduce as many targets as possible and stay tanky in that way. And I felt like it was a very rewarding and fun loop, and hopefully our players feel the same way.
Yeah, I think the gut reaction is he's going to be weaker because people are going to be used to knocking up and comboing a certain way. And I think that the more people play it, I think it's the same with the new character, new god release, that I think the more that people play it, they'll realize its strength. Same with, like, I feel like we said this a lot historically in Smite, where something gets released and the gut reaction is, oh, this is terrible. And then it's like, oh, this is actually pretty good,
Arthur come to mind, maybe, with that?
Yeah, Tiamat, just
yeah,
people. Before I forget, to that guy that liked Erlang, just pick up Shiva. They're kind of just similar kits.
Got a lot of CC,
you kind of just knock people up and kill people, and that character kind of goes Pogo in the jungle right now, so you can have fun with him.
You sure can. You're going to be able to do a lot of work with a lot of different stuff, for sure. Overall, I do think that Erlang, I will say last thing before we wrap it up, because I'm missing so much of the Hawks game. Let's actually check the score live on the air so that I can be sad or elated right in front of you. Oh my god, we're losing by 13. What's the point of even being...
It's because you weren't watching.
I know, man! We were in the lead when I was watching. It's absolute nonsense. It's fine. As long as we win both games, we're fine.
Wait, is Neil on that team?
Huh?
Is Neil on that team? Neil Ma?
The Oni Warriors?
Yeah, the famous come from behind,
Oh, right. Yeah.
But never out.
Sorry, I was not there ready to yes and you on that one.
Yeah, I think you were still too angry over the score. That's fine.
No. Yeah. I was just, now I'm shook. Erlang does play so differently, and I think that the players who are going to try and play the way that they did with old Erlang aren't going to find as much success as the people who are just picking up Erlang for the first time and trying out all these things, right?
Yep.
So that's like reading it in this way and seeing, I just want to use my spot weakness to spread out my damage reduction. And a lot of times in play tests, I was like blink ulting the back line and just they're gonna beads it, and I know they will. So I don't waste my root on them. I don't try and turtle them or anything like that. I just auto them 2 or 3 times with my 1 active. And then I just turn and auto 2 or 3 times the character that's coming to peel them. And now all of a sudden I've reduced their damage by a lot. I've got a fat heal coming. I've got all this mitigation from my ultimate. And then when I need it, I've got a slow and knock up immune shield movement speed boost that's going to get me away. And I felt very disruptive in that way. That is not how Erlang was played. It used to be blink, knock up, pin, they're dead. You're one-shotting people in the back line. It will not play like that, but it will play in its own type of unique play style. So I'm hoping people are going to like it. We shall see.
Yeah, I think just like we said with the earlier changes, just give it a week. Just play. If you're a solo main, just play Erlang. If you're not a solo main, just play Erlang. Just see how it feels. Give aggro your feedback. Try to word it in a kind, approachable way so he doesn't go off on you.
I will not go off on you for feedback unless it is intentionally malicious. That is the only time I would do it. Even if you're passionate and you're upset about something and you send me some feedback, I'll understand. I promise I will. But if you're like recording one clip with no stacks of DR and no CCR, and then a second part of the clip with CCR and full stacks of DR and trying to pretend like it's the same thing, that will not make me very happy. And I won't send anything back.
But you'll talk about it on the podcast.
But I'll talk about you on the podcast, and you'll know it's you.
Get those feelings out.
And you'll know it's you. All right, time for our random question of the week. This one is provided, as I've said. Feel free to message me random questions of the week on Twitter. This one is provided by Top Knox. With the new God release coming out, let's ask, if you were the god of something, what would you be the god of?
Bananas.
The god of bananas. Is there a god of bananas? Who are you competing with here?
The Raijin skin.
That one Raijin skin, that's right. Okay, here's one. Deity who's yellow and... Is this real? I don't know.
There's no way this is real. There's no way there's an actual god of bananas.
I don't like this. Yeah, I'm not saying...
Wait.
I don't know what's going on here.
Okay, this might be a weird tangent. Didn't bananas used to be different? I've heard that they're engineered to look this way or something now.
Yes, that they're supposed that the banana that our bananas taste like actually went extinct a long time ago. And we are just making copies of that one type of banana.
Really?
That is
interesting.
That is the urban legend that I have read online that I have never verified its validity or not.
Yeah, I just Googled bananas before current bananas. And I feel like I could have worded that more intelligently.
I think Google sometimes, with the stuff that I Google and word it that way, I think Google should disrespect me a little bit more at times.
Yeah.
If you type something dumb into Google, it should be try again. This is bad. This is a bad effort from you, and I don't think that I should have to work off this. You fix your thing and I'll do your work. It should have a backbone at times.
Yeah, the did you mean section is just insulting you.
Yeah, exactly. It's did you mean to be a normal human being? You absolutely it just starts going off on you. That's good. All right, maybe Ryan Reynolds has a connection at Google that I can get that suggestion to. I would be the god, I think, of overly invested opinions on small matters. That would be mine. You'd be able to pray to me about, dear, oh great God of petty opinions, what is it better to park on the left or the right side of the garage? And then I would deliver unto you a vision.
That's a good question as well, though.
Yeah, it kind of is, huh? Maybe that's our random question of the week next week. It probably won't be, because someone else will tweet a better one at us. But it also all depends. It also all depends on where the door is in your garage into your house and which direction you are turning out of your driveway. Those are two key factors in this. And these are the types of visions I would deliver unto those who would send offerings to me. Offerings of Factor 75 meals and things like that. Things that I like.
You sound like one of those, like, on Reddit where they always ask, like, what's a really lame superpower that's not actually lame? That's
Uh-huh.
what you're describing. Like, you're literally min-maxing your entire life for someone forever. Like that
Yeah, but
you're
it's not even min-maxing, right? It's like, why, it's because that makes it too important. Like, I don't even want it to be that important.
uh
Like, I want to be able to have a strong opinion over, like,
Mhm.
whether it's like what presidential coin is the best presidential coin.
Okay.
Like the less important it is, the more I like
Okay, gotcha.
giving an in-depth opinion about it. The lower the stakes, the more invested I get.
So it is a bad superpower. Okay.
It is a bad superpower, but it is in some ways a superpower, I suppose. And I've never thought about it that way. But yeah,
No, it's not.
thanks, Barrett. No, I have a superpower. Oh, my ego just got bigger. Joe would say it's impossible, but it's happened. Thanks for listening,
I just
everybody. Thanks for watching. What were you gonna say, Barry?
I just like that we're complete opposites in our opinions. Like I'm just
Right,
so
mine are good, and
relaxed.
yours are bad.
Exactly. Like I don't know why I just have such bad opinions all the time, and your opinions are just so good and perfect all the
Look,
time.
I know that I have some unpopular opinions. I think it's important
Some?
to admit that. Yeah, some of my opinions are unpopular. Like
Okay.
me saying that Mayo doesn't improve anything is not a popular opinion. And I recognize that in the grand scheme of things, I'm probably wrong. But to me, I'm right. And that's good enough for me.
You said that with such sly confidence, bro.
Yeah. Joe often says that one of my greatest strengths is she'll like say something that I didn't do well or like something that I need to
Mhm.
improve on. And then I go, I've
Which
heard
never
this
happened.
negative, which never happens, of course. I go, I've heard this negative thing that you've said about me, but I'm going to interpret it as this other positive thing. Like,
Oh.
she'll be like, you always wait until the last minute to get things done. They'll get done, but like, we have to stress about it getting done at the last minute. And I go, yeah, I do kind of work well under pressure, huh? Like something like that. That's obviously a very exaggerated scenario, but I am very good at pulling out the technically correct compliments in a slight.
I mean,
Man,
that's
why
a
am I
very
just
good
like
thing.
I'm just like talking about how great I am at the end of this podcast? I hate this. I don't like it at all.
I mean, I thought this would kind of be your thing. I thought this was kind of your
Well,
element.
that's what people think, but it is, I just try and look at it from a realistic. That's even worse. No, I don't know what I'm trying to say. That's even worse.
Look,
What's
you're
going
just the
on?
greatest
Why are
thing
we
that
still in this podcast, Barra? The Hawks are playing, man.
I don't know, man. I thought you were gonna close it, and then you
Oh,
didn't
they're
close
only down
it.
10. Okay, they're only down 10. That's good. That's good for us. Yeah, AJ says I'm the god of humbleness. Not only am I very humble, AJ, but I'm also not gonna. No, I forgot the what. Oh, I always use that. I'm also very modest. Not only am I known
Oh,
for my modesty, but I'm also known for how humble I am. I love doing that. I think that's so true. Thanks for listening, everybody. Make sure you're checking out Mint Mobile again. mintmobile.com/backliners if you want to get premium wireless service for just $15 a month. And our newest sponsor, Factor 75 Meals. It's a great way to get lunch. I've been using it, and I really, really love it. And you go to go.factor75, the numbers 75.com, and use code backliners120 to get $120 off your order, which I hope you will enjoy. I know you will because I enjoyed it very much. Thanks everyone for listening / watching. Give us a rating, all that kind of stuff. Barra, please save me from talking anymore.
bye.
Oh, thank goodness.
I dragged that one out a little bit. Had to give you some more gusto, cause is it gusto or gusto?